Ahoy, ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing? Welcome to the BBC Spews Live on the 10th of July. How is everyone doing? Plenty in already. You can see that I'm getting gimped by my nemesis, Susan. Oh no, it's not her anymore. Neil. Because this stream gets more viewers. Have you seen how many people tune in for this stream? Because like people who actually watch it are acting as what would you call it? A real-time meritocracy. There's people who have 1 million subscribers who don't get 500 people turn up for a live stream. I get like at least 400 every time. So they're gimping me for no reason. Damn them to 1,000 hells. Susa, I swear I will dance the Irish jig upon her grave. The lizard. She could at least give me a sly horizontal wink. Not horizontal, vertical wink. That's it, isn't it? The reptilians do vertical winks. They've got it, but their eyes go from the sides in. Yeah, Neil. Anyway, there's too many you're in, so you're not all getting a name drop. Davy boy, you can have one because you're a codhead, and I pity anybody forced to endure Saltburn for more than a month. I went to Saltburn last time I was home. I went past the old Dorman Long about a week before they blew it up. That's a bit of history there. I took a picture because I thought, isn't it weird that that's still up? And then they blew it up a week later. So, yeah, that was quite prophetic as well, wasn't it? Right, first things first. Obviously, we've got to talk about a certain Welshman's arse cheeks. I was going to do a pre-recorded video about it, but I was convinced it would get me instantly gimped. So don't want to talk too much about that, and you don't want to see it, dear. Someone sent me a class picture, and Jimmy Savile's face was covering his arse. But you all know it is now, so we can't. There's not really any excitement anymore because everybody knows who it is. One thing I will say is this bit that I'm going to scroll through now. Like I said, I was going to make a video about this, but you have to do the controversial stuff on your live streams because it's like I said, it's why I stopped doing the BBC Spews, the pre-recorded version, because it always got me banned or got instantly deleted. Whereas on the live streams, you seem to get away with a lot more. So I don't know whether it's they don't check it if it goes out in real time as aggressively, or they don't get monetized or any of that nonsense. So I thought we'd cover it here instead, because if I try to do it on a pre-recorded video, I'm telling you, it will get me gimped. So we'll do it here, right? No, I'm done. And I'm just as good live as I am pre-recorded, and I don't have to waste my time with all that editing malarkey. So let's just do this. So we've got the new development in the fast-moving case. I'll do you the bullet points on the left, shall I? Can I zoom in a bit? It says a lawyer representing the young person at the centre of the BBC presenter has disputed their mother's accounts of events. In the letter to the BBC, the lawyer says the allegations reported in The Sun are rubbish, and the young person sent the newspaper a denial on Friday, but it proceeded to publish their inappropriate article. Well, let me tell you what I think about that. What's a diplomatic word? Is it? Bollocks. Let me tell you what I think about that. Shiite, right? Basically, it's going to be another, because it's the BBC, it's going to be another creepy, pill-popping, sexual deviant shitbag who has groomed a young person. And if you get groomed, you side with the abuser, but it doesn't mean it's not abuse. We said that about old Scoffs when he was teabagging the tea boy, right? When he was lowering his testicles into the tea boy's mouth, John O'Groat. Basically, we pointed out the obvious, that if it was a young person, they'd probably be in on it. And I've told you this before. The simplest way to refute these pro-nonce wokists is to simply say, is it acceptable when a teacher does it? Because when a teacher starts bumming a 15-year-old, the 15-year-old is usually all well into it. Like when that filthy devil ran off to France a couple of years ago. Do you remember that? Proper loser teacher ran off to France with his girlfriend, his schoolgirl that he groomed. And she was well into it. She was like, yeah, we're going to get married. She since wrote stories that have been published in the paper saying, oh, yeah, I was in love with him because I was a little kid and he groomed me. Just because the groomer, which is the whole point we've been saying for years. I feel like we're almost repeating ourselves now because there's so many sexual deviant, pill-popping, sex pest, freak perverts at the BBC. We're just going around in circles, aren't we? It's a good job I always come up with innovative insults and crude, sexually aggressive swear words because we're basically constantly going over the same old ground over and over and over again. Every year, another sex pest crawls out of the slime at the BBC and starts pulling himself off in front of the primary school. That's just what they do. It's what they do. Which is what I keep saying. It wants bulldozing. It wants bulldozing while Match of the Day is still on. There's no need to wait for it to finish. Just get shot of it. Broadcasting House needs to take a tumble. I don't normally promote iconoclasm, but all the statues on the front of it, they're all kiddie fiddlers as well. So, like, what's going to be lost? What's going to be lost? Broadcasting House, there's more felching and fisting going on in Broadcasting House than there is newspapers got read or broadcasts went out. It is a nest of depravity, that whole building. I don't know what... I guarantee Gary Lineker's getting a rusty trombone before he goes on air. So he's a bit of a sex pest, isn't he? His missus is like 30 years younger than him or something. They're all absolute weasels. It's not normal, is it? All these actors as well. Like I said, Al Pacino rogering some 26-year-old bird when he's like 80. It's rancid. It is rancid just because it's legal. That's what they're all saying yesterday. Oh, yes, but technically they are 17. Yeah, they, them. Yeah, but he's like 70 or whatever he is. The mucky old sheep shagging bastard. He's a geriatric. I can't believe people defend this. Do you know what else I'll say? Again, repeating myself, probably made this point 100 times. This is why the left are the way they are. Think about it. I listened to Jordan Peterson's latest with Andrew Doyle, and it was really interesting. And he was making the point like, there's naked self-interest here. Because have you noticed how the left are all perverts? Yeah, occasionally you get a right-wing pervert. And he's just one of them blokes. So it's quite normal, like 1 in every 4 blokes. This is just a theory I came up with, being a bootneck and going out on the piss with hundreds, probably thousands of young, sexually virile young men. Well, other than me. The Angry Bootneck is strictly a missionary position, twice a month type of guy. But generally, I think 1 in 4 men, this is just pulling that number out my ass, really struggle with being faithful because men are hounds because of our evolutionary drivers, and we can't get pregnant and we don't have any issues there. So I think from the way I've seen lads, married and attached men, about 1 in 4, if a young lass batted their eyelids at him when we were ashore and said, come on then, you can hoy one into me behind the bins, about 1 in 4 just cannot bring themselves to say no. And then most of us that are normal, you war with it. You can fight temptation off because you go, listen, of course the chimp part of my brain thinks, oh, that'd be a good idea, but it's immoral. It's massively seen off my missus. I've got a wife, I've got kids, I've got a really good girlfriend, whatever it is. And the amount of lads you know because you have loads of frank conversations when you're surrounded by blokes around the same age, you know what I mean? And the amount of lads who I met who would say, like, one of my biggest regrets is cheating on my girlfriend that was really, really good. Every one of us, myself included, went out with a really sound lass when I was about 23 and cheated on her because that's what you do when you're young and daft. And you have regrets and you go, you know what, I shouldn't have done that because she was fucking sound and I was a knobhead. And I think as you get older, men realise, like, most blokes can exercise some self-control. And I reckon sort of 1 in 4 literally cannot. Like, there is no way they can not be a bit of a pervert. And it's not that big of a deal if you're all of a similar age. Even something like 20 to like 30, it's not that. About 10 years is about normal. But anything past that is fucking filth. Like, and I was talking to, I did a live stream yesterday. If you didn't see it, go and check it out with Paula. And I was saying to her, like, society does police this, doesn't it? Because in England, this is why you know it's sort of wrong. It is legal to shag 16-year-old birds in England, but nobody does it. There was one lad in my school who was doing it when we were like 16 and in our last year of school. A bloke cut up the road called Todd. I think he was like 2 years old or something. He had a car. I remember, because no one's got a car when you're 16. And he used to come and pick his missus up, his girlfriend at school. And if you think back, the poor little cunt, I mean, it's not even that weird, is it? He was like 18, she was 16. Everyone used to torture him and call him the cradle snatcher. Just go, hey, cradle snatcher, where's your pram? Like, butchering him. And it was like, society polices in that way. It's legal to rattle a 16-year-old. But you never, ever see 35-year-old men with 16-year-old girlfriends. It just doesn't happen because society polices it. So that's what gives you, without getting into the whataboutery and the mind games that the woke, pill-popping sex pests get into. Society polices itself, and you just know what's moral. You just know. And if this sex pest was 23, using a position of power and authority and money to piss around with a young lass, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But the dirty old bastard being nearly old enough to get a pension makes it absolutely shocking. Talking about the pins, romance isn't dead. So I've told you that story. Long-time viewers have heard the story. I had a mate from Hartlepool who shagged a bird out the back of the nasty little social club in Hartlepool. And he said she was so fat he had to move 4 bins to get her behind him. And from then on, he started rating them in bin size. So a slim, attractive woman was a 2-binner, a fat knacker was a 4-binner, and an absolute house end was an 8-binner. So if his missus took some absolute howler home, worse than a 10 to 2 bird, an half two bird is you picked her up outside the kebab shop, right? So for Americans watching, a 10 to 2 is a really howling bird because the nightclubs close at 2. So a 10 to 2 is the one you walk up to a 10 to 2 and go, come on then, fatty, no one else is going to take you home. Get your handbag. Right, that's a 10 to 2. March over, 10 to 2, they're about to turn the lights off. You haven't got lucky. So you go, oi, buffalo ass, get your coat. Let's go to my house. No one else is going to fucking rattle you, either. Well, an half 2 is worse than a 10 to 2. A kebab shop bird. If it's some 40-stone kebab shop bird, that's when you're dealing with an 8-binner. Anyway, so Hartlepool's fantastic. Some of the stories I'll have to save some for when we do an Angry Bootneck live in a real pub when I next come back to the UK. But I've got some great stories about Hartlepool. Remember going on a stag do? Not a stag do. I was a teenager. I got off work working at the steelworks in Borough, and a load of the Hartlepool lads said to me, "Oh, come, we've got free booze at the club tonight, Matty. One of the lads is getting married." So I went to the piss up at the club. So it wasn't a stag do, it was a party. And they brought out 2 strippers, and I've never seen anything like it. Like, we'll have to leave the rest of that story for in person, but trust me, these 2, basically from the back, one of them looked like a fucking ground. Like, you could count every individual rib and see the track marks. Like, these were the strippers in Hartlepool. They make like Snoop Doggy Dogg's first girlfriend look like a looker, look like a classy bird. Pick her up in an alley in Compton. She'd be like the Queen of England if she was in Hartlepool. Anyway, what was I talking about? Oh, yeah, back to the issue at hand. You can see when the woke, degenerate, sex pest, pill-popping, drug addict, Nancy left always defends this type of thing. you can see it's out of naked self-interest because, yeah, leading on from the 1 in 4 statistic, some conservative people are perverts, but it seems like all the really, really pervy stuff, conservative MP, usually it's someone like, do you remember Mellor? When Mellor was having an affair, and you'll get like John Major having his underwear with Edwina Curry or something, and it's like, ooh, sleaze and scandal. It's like, what? A 60-year-old bloke's fucking a 50-year-old bird behind his wife's back. Ooh, conservative people's sleaze is like an absolute walk in the park by comparison. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want to defend a conservative party because I hate them, but conservative people, you got to get someone who actually believes in marriage and family and tradition and stuff, and you get their sex scandal, and it's like, oh yeah, this 42-year-old married man is Matt Hancock or something, and he's shagging a much fitter, slightly younger bird, and it's scandal, it's sleaze. But when you get these woke freak perverts doing it, it's a 60-year-old bumming a 15-year-old, or it's like Harriet Harman saying, there's nothing wrong with folding up an 8-year-old. Kids can decide. Why do you decide when the kids can consent? No, they can't. No, they can't. And normal people don't think they can. So as I keep saying, they can use all the slippery legalese. The what? Tony Blair was an expert at it. Let's just get rid of this, tear this up, get rid of this ancient 700-year-old document. Oh, fuck that. I'm Tony Blair. I'll decide what we're going to do. Let's just set up this bollocks Supreme Court that just makes shit up all day long. Let's just do that. And they use legalese and nonsense and slippery language and all these other things. But the people know what the people know. And society polices itself in this way. And that's what I'm saying. So they can come up with all of these, oh, well, technically, actually, legal, the consent of it. And then what is the age of consent? Who's to decide? People know what's right and what's wrong. And manky, wrinkly, grey-haired, rich, powerful TV presenters Roger in teenagers is shocking, and he's definitely a pervert because there's all these HD photos. You can go on the internet and within 10 seconds be looking at HD pictures of some bird's rusty sheriff's badge, and this freak pervert's paying some teenage girl for it. They're all shocking, and that's why Harriet Harman and the left, famous sexual deviants. The reason they are is because it is done out of naked self-interest. A lot of you probably don't know this. I know a lot more people do know about the origins of wokeism and postmodernism and rebranded commie doctrine because of the efforts of the likes of Jordan Peterson. But if you've actually sat and read about the lives of some of the high priests of the woke movement, I'm telling you, it would curl your fucking toes. Like, it really is shocking. Michel Foucault was a paedophile, like a proper full-on pedo. And these are the people getting worshipped by the woke. They are their high priests. Again, the right don't really have high priests, do we? The religious right have actual priests, but they don't have high priests for the political movement. The left do. They're in a cult. And the people they worship, like Michel Foucault, were paedophiles. Like, that's not me. I'm not making that up. Just Google his name. He was a pedo. He was shagging little kids. He used to go to Asia to do it, basically. So they do out of naked self-interest. So think about it. When we believe in tradition, we say the things we've learned over hundreds of years have real value because it takes decades or centuries to come up with good things that work. So you should be very, 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 very careful before you make changes. This is what I've always believed. Even as a socially liberal conservative, I've always said, on the face of it, I don't really have an issue with gay marriage, but I'm willing to have my mind changed. And I am aware that making broad changes to institutions and practices that have been around for centuries or even millennia, you have to be careful because there can be, like a pebble in the pond, there can be ramifications that you don't even know or expect. You've got to be cautious in life, right? You've got to be risk averse. And the left never are. And it turns out the stuff that they're into, it's because of naked self-interest. They're all sexual deviants and perverts. Like I said, some of the most famous pioneers of their movements, I forget the name of the proper freak who he got done experiments on two little boys and basically made one a girl and one a boy. And both of them ended up topping themselves. I think neither of them got to 40. And these people go, oh, yeah, but technically, actually, who says right's wrong? Who says, again, the no grand narratives bollocks of all of the left, the woke, pedo, pill-popping sex pests. Oh, who says this is right? Who says this is wrong? Everything can be questioned. Well, it can't, because society knows. Your granny and your granddad tell you things on the knee, and you just know it's right. And as, like I said, man used to say, you don't piss in my face and tell me it's fucking raining. You just know. And they can use whatever slimy, dirty, oily, lawyery tactics they want. It's bollocks. So that's the short version. They're trying now to cover it up. I went on a massive rant there. And the short version is they're trying to say, actually, it's looking like there's loads of holes in this case. And the victim is saying, no, it never happened. And all I'm saying to you is, trust your gut. Who do you trust? The young person that was a child when probably all of this started, or the kid's parents, the mother? I think Mammy's going to be telling the truth, and the groomed kid is not. Just like old Philip Schofield, right? So he had his way, he fingered Ed the duck, right? He fisted Gordon the gopher, and then he teabagged the tea-boy. And then, funny old thing, the tea-boy's like, oh, no, he's like, didn't do anything. No. Yeah, well, Gordon the gopher said that, didn't he? Well, no, he went and squeaked or whatever it was. But I'm sure if you could translate the squeaks, it'd be, I enjoy getting fisted by Philip. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I asked for it. So there's that. Anyway, I can't talk about it too much. And then that was on Twitter. Made me laugh. Good evening, our top story tonight. Me. Oops. Thanks for that, whoever sent me that on Twitter. What else is going on Twitter? I reckon the BBC presenter's got the victim. Probably, Paz. Probably. Reminder of how good Trump was for Britain. Wasn't he? Fuck it. Look at that doddering old fool by comparison. Can barely talk. It's embarrassing. There's a story we can talk about. The cluster bombs, because I'm sure there's a lot of civvies watch my channel who don't really know the crack. So essentially, the reason it's an issue and why Biden's visiting, he's visiting slimy Sunak, and they're going to talk about the cluster bombs. Rock solid. Yeah, rock solid. It's as rock solid as your fatty when you just sniffed an 8-year-old. Yeah, when you've got an absolute stalk on because you've just been sniffing the kids. Evening, Matt. I'm your one Twitter viewer. There you go. Cheers, Liam. Well done. Well done, Liam. You're in elite. You're in an elite group there. Actually, I'm on the wrong page. Liam's just showed me I'm on the wrong page. There we go. Yeah, Biden says the UK relationship is almost as solid as his cock when he's sniffing children. Basically, the reason the cluster bombs issue is a problem, if I can sum it very simplistically, someone sent me, I don't even know what that is. Dawn Browning, is that Aussie dollars? Thanks, Dawn. Yeah, I'm assuming Aussie dollars. What's an Aussie dollar worth? It's not like one of them dodgy ones where it's worth about 3 pence, is it? I'm kidding. In this day and age, probably worth more than the British pound. Essentially, cluster bombs get dropped, and some of them don't go off because what it does, it drops the payload, the bomb opens up, and then it drops thousands or hundreds of little bomblets, and they land, and tons of them don't even go off. So then civilians walk across them and get blew up 10 years later. So the reason cluster bombs are so disgracefully immoral and shouldn't be getting sent to Ukraine. And God Christ almighty, I'm repeating myself again. How many times have I said it? Think of the long term. Think of the big picture. Tony Blair, Trudeau, Biden, they all do it. They just do stuff, change stuff, get rid of things, and then it comes back to bite them in the ass. They did it with Trump. Get rid of that, change that law, and then the person they hate comes in and they use the law that they passed to fuck them, which is why people like me say, don't change things, be very, very careful, be risk averse. It took centuries and debate and discussion to get this thing in position. You don't just throw it away on a whim. Well, this is more of an example of that, because think of this logically. The fighting is in eastern Ukraine, but because Bungalow Biden, the crooked thief, corrupt crook liar, takes money off the arms companies, basically they've probably got a shelf life. They need to get rid of some cluster bombs, and they're like, fucking hell, Joe, we've got thousands of these cluster bombs and we don't use them because they don't go down very well. And he's gone, hey, fuck it, yeah, nice one. To tell you what, I'll trouser 10 million and we'll buy another $10 billion worth of cluster bombs. Because think about it logically, the fighting is in the east of Ukraine. So we're going to drop a shitload of cluster bombs. This exemplifies their myopic, short-sighted thinking. They're going to drop a load of cluster bombs in the east of Ukraine, and then 10 years' time, when the war's not on anymore, Ukrainians will walk over them. Just think of that. Who the fuck drops bombs, fire and forget bombs that can be killing people 10 years after they got dropped? In an area where the people that live there are supposedly allied to the United States. I mean, think of that. So he's going to be like, yeah, let's cluster bomb this shit out of them. And in 10 years' time, some poor old Ukrainian cunt's going to be walking the dog. And the next thing, Fido gets scattered across the fucking park because this twat has just covered it with cluster bombs and unexploded munitions. I mean, it's ridiculous. What do you reckon there? Bigger sun deflection. So what's the point there? That's something. So do we think the sun's sitting on something and none of this was a thing? I'm inclined to side with the mother. I'm not the groomer. But don't distract me in the chat because we'll end up going back on what I've just talked about. First use of cluster munitions will be Donetsk as usual. Yeah, ludicrous. So this is just proof of what I'm talking about, the myopic, ludicrous behaviour of our leadership. It says Biden's described relations with the UK as rock solid during talks in London. He said he couldn't be meeting a closer friend and greater ally. What a wanker. What a knobhead. Oh, God, I hate him. There's one. What are cluster bombs and why is the US sending them to Ukraine? Well, we know why they're sending them. They're sending them to Ukraine because Joe Biden takes money off the arms companies. That's why. Easy. Which we're sending them because the globalist psychopaths that run the world don't care if little babies and old ladies and pensioners, Yorkshire Terriers get blew up in 10 years' time. That's why. Fuck it, just start using napalm. Drop some napalm on. Remember that one? Napalm, sticks like glue, burns old women and the babies too. Just do that. Just, fuck it. Napalm Donetsk. Sounds like a good idea. Brilliant. It's a good idea now. Who cares that it might not be in 3 years' time? Fucking ridiculous. Mr. Biden received a royal salute and listened to the US national anthem performed by the Welsh Guards before entering the castle for talks. And there he is with fucking King Sausage Fingers, who's another one who was mates with all the nonsense at the BBC, wasn't he? Best pals with old Jimmy Scroggins. So that's bollocks. If you want to learn about, should we click on this and see if the BBC actually knows what it's talking about when it comes to cluster bombs? What are cluster bombs and why is the US sending them? I want to know. BBC. You tell me one good reason why we should send them some cluster bombs. Should we see out of morbid curiosity if the BBC is going to tell us something useful? Because I cannot think of a logical reason to send cluster bombs to a fucking Western, to a developed country that is full of people that are apparently our allies that we're trying to liberate. So you tell me, come on. The US is sending controversial cluster munitions and has been criticised by human rights groups as it's banned in more than 100 countries. Yeah, for the aforementioned reason that most countries don't like to see wars end, and then 20 years later, a toddler crawls over it and it goes off. Yeah. Cluster munitions disperse large numbers of tiny bomblets from a rocket that scatters them in mid-flight over a wide area. They are intended to explode on impact, but a significant proportion are duds, meaning they don't explode initially, especially when they land on wet or soft ground. They then explode at a later date after being picked up or trodden on by small children enjoying a game of armies down the woods. From a military perspective, they can be effective when used against dug-in troops in trenches and fortified positions. Oh, and they've got a nice little infographic look. There you go. That's better than me explaining it. There's the big one. There's the bomblets. All go down. And Yorkshire Terrier tries to eat one 11 years and 3 months after the war has ended. Nice one. Fucking great idea. Why are they banned? Well, I think we can skip that paragraph, BBC. Who still uses them? Arseholes. Arseholes still use them. I love the way that. I love that as well. They're trying to use like whataboutism. It says Russian cluster bombs reportedly have a dud rate of 40%. So they'll kill loads more babies and women than Yorkshire Terriers. But the Pentagon said its cluster bombs are way better and hardly any of them don't kill babies and toddlers and Yorkshire Terriers. So therefore, nice one. They've pulled that completely out their arse. Reportedly. Oh, that's a good source. Reportedly. Who the fuck's reportedly then? Who's he when he's at home? Russian cluster missiles reportedly have a dud rate of 40%. Yeah. Like they're in the factories making them and they go, how many of these are duds? And they go 40% and they go, fucking nice one. Winner. Like that. If you're an engineer in a Russian factory, that's what you like. 40% are totally shite. Get in. Happy days. The Pentagon says they're less than 3%. So this is just propaganda. Fucking propaganda. Why is Ukraine asking for them as well? The fucking aren't, son. There's the short answer there. Why are they asking for them? Are they asking for them? I suspect they aren't asking for them, are they? What did I say as well? If the BBC ever asks a question, Bootneck's law, if the BBC ever asks a question, the answer is no. They aren't. Yeah, so they're not. Joe Biden's been told by Lockheed, Boeing, and Raytheon, tell you what, Joey, we need to get rid of $100 billion worth of cluster bombs, and no one wants to buy them because they blow women and kids and babies up. And he's gone, fuck it. I'll trouser 10 mil, and we'll buy them all. We'll buy them all. No, I'll buy them, thanks, because I'm a US taxpayer now. I'll buy them. And this is why I've told you lot. You should feel guilty paying your taxes now. I am now a working class advocate for tax avoidance. Jimmy Carr should have been fucking praised when they found out he wasn't paying his taxes. And you silly bastards, well, not you personally, large numbers of the British public fell for it and went, bastard, Jimmy Carr's the enemy. Jimmy Carr's not the enemy. Jimmy Carr's just a normal bloke who was talking to his fucking accountant, and the accountant said, do you want to pay less tax? And he went, yeah. And they went, yeah, all right, and we'll sort it. And the general public went, oh, yeah, what a wanker. Pay your fair share. Dollies and Mick Philpotts and fat chavs in Middlesbrough have never worked a fucking day in their lives. The people in Borough who never worked a day in their natch. They'll go 45 years without fucking getting a sweat on. And they're going, yeah, Jimmy Carr, what a wanker. No, dodge it. I am now buying cluster bombs. How do I sleep at night? It's like, at least, isn't this weird? When I was a serving bootneck with a green beret on in war zones like Afghanistan and Iraq, I didn't feel guilty because I knew anyone I shot at thoroughly deserved it. Anyone I pointed my rifle at in anger definitely deserved it. They usually had an AK-47 or an RPG and were waving it in a threatening manner, right? But now I'm a civilian. I feel guilty. How do I sleep at night? Because my taxes are buying cluster bombs to blow up pensioners in Ukraine. So to me, dodging your taxes is moral. And if you pay your taxes in England, what you're paying for? You're paying for the BBC. If you pay for your TV license, you're basically a pedo. You are pro-pedo. So any of you that are watching, I think that's a new record. I broke 600 there. Any of you that are watching, if you're paying your TV license, stop watching this stream, phone the fucking BBC and say, I'm cancelling my TV license. And if they say, have you got a telly? Say, no, I'm setting it on fire, fatty. I don't know why I said fatty. The woman who, when I rang, she was definitely fat. She was eating a sausage roll on the phone. I could hear her. She was like, "Are you got a television?" I was like, "No, I haven't." I was living in York at the time. It was like 12 years ago when I lost my rag with the BBC. Stopped paying me TV license. I was like, "Fuck yes, this is just commie propaganda." If you're not paying your TV license, you are pro-nonce. Yeah, there it is. It's nonce adjacent. So stop watching this. Cancel your TV license. Pull your curtains. Never let them see a television in your house. You don't need a TV license. Or just do what I did and get rid of it altogether. But they are absolute degenerate perverts. And if you're paying it, you are helping them. You're buying Jimmy Savile's. Think about it. If you were paying your TV license in the 80s, you were buying Jimmy Savile's snuff and Vaseline. This is how bad it is. So don't tell me everyone should be paying the taxes. No, I'm a working class advocate for tax avoidance. My taxes are buying cluster bombs. And if you're doing it in Britain, you're paying for Lord Sewell. Remember Sewell? Sewage Sewell, that another Labour Lord, pervert, freak, deviant. Google Lord. In fact, I'm going to do it now before I leave because I'm done here. I'm going to do Lord Sewell. Let me tell you about Lord Sewell. I don't even need to get the page. I know what he did, but I want to prove you it. Lord Sewell, right? This Lord Sewer, this actual sexual deviant, is as usual Labour, and you were paying his wages and paying his expenses. He was one of the ones who complained the most about the expenses scandal, and he thinks everybody's forgot, but the Bootneck hasn't forgot. The Bootneck has a very long memory when it comes to sexual deviant pervert walk of lords, right? Everyone's forgot about this bloke. Well, I remember. Best mate, one of Tony Blair's best mates, John Sewell, Lord Sewage. Right? Blah, blah, blah. There's hardly any mention. Look, it's on here because I've seen it. Baron Sewell. There we go. Scandal and resignation. It's merely a footnote on Wikipedia. Well, the Bootneck remembers. Pepperidge Farm remembers. He resigned as chairman of committees in 2015 after The Sun released hidden camera footage, seemingly, yeah. Yeah, and I seemingly saw a newsreader's arsehole this morning. Thanks for that, whoever sent me that. Seemingly showing him snorting white powder, reported in the media to be cocaine. It's just reported. Might have been baking soda. Fat sex pest lords with gimp suits on frequently snort other types of white powder. Might have been baking soda, could have been sugar, could have been powdered sugar. He was going to have a donut and he thought, yeah, I'm a bit too fat to be eating powdered sugar. I like to snort a few rails of it before I eat a donut as well. And he was at a party with very, very young prostitutes, and they were foreign. They're always foreign people traffic prostitutes. That's why they turn a blind eye to people trafficking and mass immigration. And in the same video, he described David Cameron as the most superficial and facile prime minister there has ever been. Oh, really? Oh, really? And I don't want to praise, I hate David Cameron, but he seemed to have been a pretty decent husband, right? You didn't see him doing rails with little teenage girls when he was in his 60s. You horrible, fat deviant. These are the people whose wages you pay if you're paying your taxes in England. So do everything you can in the UK, do it under the table. If I could have my time again, I would fucking enter the black economy and never look back. They would not get a single penny out of me, and I would sleep like a baby because you bought John Sewell's coke, you paid for his child prostitutes, and you pay for the BBC's Vaseline. Right? Brilliant. Fucking nice one. Right, we'll call it there, ladies and gentlemen. I did upload a video. I don't know if it's live or not. Let me check. Limited on no, every video I put up, they demonetize. Wankers. Yeah, so I did make a video, but they demonetized it. I hate YouTube. I told you, these people, anyone who thinks you make money off YouTube, you don't. I get less money off YouTube than, I don't know, a shoemaker in Palestine gets, right? It's bollocks. Everything you make, they demonetize, so you don't make any money. However, I did make a video. It is now live. There is a comment. There it is in the comments. Go and watch it. Have a chuckle. Obviously, I'm talking about some fantastic American justice. They've definitely got us beat on Crime and Punishment. Thanks for watching the stream. Thanks for clicking the video. And I will see you all again very shortly. Toodle pip. See you later, everyone. Cheers.